core theme in all these psychedelic experiences is that we're ingesting a substance that induces a non-ordinary state of consciousness, an expanded state of consciousness that facilitates or catalyzes all kinds of amazing growth and healing opportunities. Because really the core dynamic as to what's happening is that it activates the unconscious, right? Just in the same way that a dream state is like direct messaging from the unconscious mind. If you think about this kind of old metaphor of the mind as an iceberg, where the conscious mind is just kind of the tip of the iceberg visible above the surface, the vast majority of our mind is kind of outside of our ordinary awareness.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I have Jonas Rosen with me today, and Jonas he's the founder of Inner Vision, and he is a psychedelic counselor. I keep saying counselor, it's a consultant. Sorry, Jonas.
Both of those work just fine.
And I think that because I feel like being a psychedelic counselor is what you do. That's really what you feel in. So I think I have in my subconscious that that's where we're going. But your title is a consultant, correct?
Yeah, I've worn different titles over the years. I mean, just real quickly, my background is as a licensed master of social work, so kind of like a mental health background. Over the past 6 years, I've been working full time in the field of psychedelic assisted therapy at a retreat center in Jamaica, which is one of the few countries internationally where psychedelic therapy is actually legal. And yeah, my role there has been psychedelic consultant, psychedelic guide, facilitator, psychedelic therapist, retreat leader. I've worn a lot of different hats, but basically my role has been to work with people through every step of the psychedelic experience, before, during, and after, to really ensure safety, and beyond that, to optimize outcomes, to help people get as much goodness as they possibly can out of the experience, as far as healing depression, anxiety, trauma, addiction, a range of mental health issues. And beyond that, exploring the mystery of life, exploring the mind and consciousness, the nature of reality, exploring spiritual growth and awakening, right? And moving in the direction of self-actualization, or realizing our fullest potential, thriving here as humans on Earth. So, yeah.
Which is my objective. And the reason why I wanted Jonas on the show today is because my whole goal, or what my vision was in creating this podcast, is to create resources for people to heal their wounds, to let go of the old belief systems that keep them limited. And I felt like this is really important because there's so many people that are struggling and they feel helpless. They don't know what directions to go. And a lot of people are limited to just what they know in the traditional forms of healing, of, psychiatry, psychology, that type of thing. And that doesn't really work for everybody. And so what I found through my life and through the experiences that I have, that there's a lot of alternatives to that maybe if that's not working for you, I want to make sure that people know that there's other modalities out there that people can use. And there's a lot of information about psychedelics out there. And I know I've seen study after study. It's been on the news. People can see all kinds of stories about just magnificent ways that psychedelics have healed the brain. And for me, I've been a little bit afraid or a little bit hesitant in trying anything that is a little bit unknown. Energy medicine, I'm so good with it because, that's who I am. I get it. I've been a massage therapist. I channel information, all of that stuff. So I'm comfortable with that part. But when we look at something that may be a little bit out of our control, because I can turn the on-off switch on for anything that I do. But when you're doing a psychedelic, then it's kind of like you're all in, and you can't jump out 5 minutes later. And so I wanted to talk to Jonas because I wanted to get his information and how he uses this in order for us to feel a little bit safer and have a better understanding of what the experience is like, and how it can help us. So again, Jonas, gosh, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, it's such a pleasure, and I really appreciate just the vulnerability and putting yourself out there in this way, because yeah, this is such an important and crucial piece of certainly the psychedelic experiences, navigating fear and anxiety, but then life in general, right? I mean, this is such a core component of spiritual growth and evolution, what Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey, right? Of growing. I mean, the old kind of cliche, like growth happens outside of our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Campbell, who wrote a lot about the hero's journey, has this quote that the cave we fear to enter holds the treasure we seek.
Mm-hmm.
As far as realizing more inner evolution, there's this constant underlying undercurrent or theme of, in a safe and supportive way, taking steps towards that which causes us fear, discomfort, apprehension, right? Because there's something there, that there's a very powerful and meaningful message in that. I'm happy to speak more on that. Let me pause here. Is there a more specific question that you have, or I can just keep going?
Yeah, well, there's a very specific question that I have. And so let's define what a psychedelic is.
Sure. Yeah. Well, psychedelic, kind of the etymology of that word means mind revealing. The kind of Greek roots of that psychedelic, mind manifesting or mind revealing. A psychedelic, in kind of conventional terms, is any substance or compound that induces a shift in our state of consciousness, a specific kind of shift in our state of consciousness, where there's many different ways of describing that. There's many different metaphors. Some people have discussed about like opening doors of perception, right? That's kind of a metaphor used by Aldous Huxley. Um, it's this quality of mind expansion or consciousness expansion. As far as psychedelics, again, in more concrete terms, kind of the classical psychedelics um, are psilocybin mushrooms, magic mushrooms. LSD is another one. DMT. There's a few different types of DMT. One of them is found in ayahuasca, which is this ancient shamanic brew that's been used for thousands of years in the Amazon basin. And a whole host of different substances. I mean, there's many, probably many of which have yet to even be discovered, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one called ibogaine that's comes from Africa, and a whole host of novel research compounds. There's also other compounds that are kind of psychedelic adjacent. Ketamine is one of them. MDMA is another one. MDA is another one, and the list goes on and on. But the core theme in all these psychedelic experiences is that we're ingesting a substance that induces a non-ordinary state of consciousness, an expanded state of consciousness that facilitates or catalyzes all kinds of amazing growth and healing opportunities. Because really, the core dynamic as to what's happening is that it activates the unconscious, right? Just in the same way that a dream state is like direct messaging from the unconscious mind. If you think about this kind of old metaphor of the mind as an iceberg, where the conscious mind is just kind of the tip of the iceberg, visible above the surface, the vast majority of our mind is kind of outside of our ordinary awareness. Psychedelics have this amazing capacity to metaphorically lower that waterline on the iceberg, so that more and more of the unconscious mind is visible, is in our awareness, right? And it's amazing how this happens. I mean, very spontaneously, we might find in a psychedelic experience, as an example of this, very early memories coming to the surface, just kind of organically, spontaneously, that I haven't thought about in years, if not decades. Oh, yeah, there was that thing that happened when I was 5 years old, right? And not only am I now recalling that memory that had kind of been forgotten or buried or lost, but I'm also reconnecting with whatever emotions might be connected to that, right? And as we go deeper into the subconscious realms of the psyche, we start to enter what we could call the transpersonal. So these are beyond my personal biographical life story, going back before I was even born. Right? There's this whole host of psychedelic experiences that are described as perinatal, going back to the womb. And then even before that, right? Past lifetimes, or maybe not even past lifetimes that I've lived, but just it can subjectively feel in some of these experiences that I'm no longer wearing or occupying the identity of Jonas, this human body, mind, ego, identity, lifetime. And yet I'm more me than ever before. And I'm touching into aspects of reality or the cosmos that feel spiritual, that feel transcendent, that feel divine, that feel way beyond this lifetime. And um, I'm saying that because these substances played a massive role in my own spiritual growth and evolution. I mean, I was an atheist for many, many years of my life. I was very convinced that when I die, that's it. The lights go out. End of the show. Right now, following some of my psychedelic experiences, I'm kind of the opposite of that, where it's all divine. It's all a manifestation of an infinite divine reality.
Yeah. So what created the opportunity, or what pushed you to try it? Well, first of all, let me go back. What did you use for the first time? What
Sure.
form?
Yeah. My first ever psychedelic experience was around 15 years ago, and it was with psilocybin mushrooms.
Hmm.
And it was kind of a serendipitous event in my life. I mean, as life unfolds, I feel sometimes it feels like there's an invisible hand just kind of nudging us along. I wasn't seeking this out by any means. I was really taught from a young age to fear these substances, that there's nothing good or valuable to appreciate about these substances, right? And I just had a friend in college come up to me and say, "Hey, a couple of us are going to try mushrooms next week. You want to join?" And yeah, there was definitely that fear there, right? I can really relate. But there was also just this profound curiosity. Something in me lit up, was so intrigued by that, and sensed that there was something, yeah, intriguing, interesting in this. So curiosity got the better of fear. And yeah, I had my first psychedelic experience with psilocybin around 15 years ago, and it was a life changing experience in so many ways that are hard to even succinctly put into words. But certainly it helped me in a profound way with my own mental health, with anxiety, with depression, right? With feelings of loneliness and isolation, cultivated more of a sense of meaning and purpose, and passion, interest, engagement, connection with life, fascination with the mystery of all that is. And it really was that first psychedelic experience that kind of catalyzed a massive spiritual awakening in my life, where I began to sense in the first time for the first time that I really don't know anything. It's all such a mystery. Who am I to say that this is the nature of reality, or this is the nature of reality, or God doesn't exist, or atheism is the truth, or there's no such thing as life beyond this life? Um, all of a sudden, it was very intellectually humbling in that way, because everything appeared as a unbelievable mystery and miracle. I mean, every little blade of grass I was looking at was just like an infinitely fascinating world, with such elegance and intricacy and complexity in this one little blade of grass. And I'm looking around at this ocean of grass, and all the seemingly mundane things in life, the trees swaying in the wind, the clouds passing by, the birds flying overhead. It was all imbued with this sense of just unbelievable awe and wonder. And it was really an experience of awe therapy. I was just like overwhelmed with this sense of awe. I've never seen life the same since that first experience.
Yeah, yeah, and It's so interesting because what you're saying is what I don't know how to put it in words. Um, my guides, my Akashic masters are they're showing me that everything that has life, which is a blade of grass, which is a drop of water, being able to see every cell in a tree and being able to recognize that wholeness and completeness of what everything is that we constantly walk by with our blinders on. And we have this tendency just to be oblivious to the
Yeah.
miraculous that's around us.
Mm,
And
mm,
the interesting part of what you're saying is that the more that we're aware of life, all of the intricacies, it does change who we are. It changes our the words that I'm hearing is it changes the component or the structure of who I am on the cellular level, and to
right.
be able to see and connect with things that we haven't been able to do in our
Yeah.
everyday, you know, fight or flight, crazy, got to do mind.
Oh
You
man.
know, it's
Yeah.
really like just what hit the brakes and slow down for a second. Yeah.
It opens
So
us. Yeah.
yeah, you did mention a few things about why to use a psychedelic, but let's put it more in a form where, like let's look at who are the people that are the types of situations that people can benefit, specifically. Like because like I've heard, like people with PTSD and
Yeah.
that using psilocybin. I don't know about all the other stuff. Psilocybin's what I'm mostly familiar with, how it can
Yeah.
rewire the brain in order to see things differently. So that's one situation. So can you name some other examples of how what would be who would be a
Sure.
good candidate for this type of
Sure,
work?
sure. Well, the amazing thing is that there's so many novel applications of these compounds, and there's so many different compounds that I really have the sense that as ancient as these psychedelic plant medicines are, I mean, psilocybin mushrooms, just as an example, has been used for at least 2,000 years, on many different corners of the globe. As ancient as they are, we're just starting to more deeply understand the potential here and all the different applications because people are in the news and media it's commonly discussed about the therapeutic potential here, right, as a using these psychedelic plant medicines as a treatment or intervention for depression, for anxiety, for trauma, PTSD, substance abuse, addiction, OCD. The clinical terminology is that psychedelics have what's called a transdiagnostic advocacy when it comes to therapeutic uses. They work to create healing across all these different diagnostic domains. So you have depression, anxiety, trauma, all these different things, right? It's the same treatment for many different diagnoses. There's the therapeutic applications. I'm happy to say more about that if you're interested. But then also there's like all these other incredible applications as well. Like the therapeutic side is just the beginning because there's so many interesting uses of psychedelics when it comes to creativity, when it comes to life meaning and purpose, our career, connection, interpersonally or intrapersonally, when it comes to real world problem solving, innovation, when it comes to conflict resolution. There's interesting trials using psychedelics such as ayahuasca in active conflict zones of conflict to barter peace to broker peace between two groups in conflict. Really interesting stuff. And that doesn't even begin to touch on the spiritual component, right? The evolution of consciousness side of it, which I think everything falls under the umbrella of evolution of consciousness. But the spiritual side, I mean, this is so desperately needed in today's world. I mean, looking around, it's like in a lot of ways, humanity is in like the spiritual dark ages out here. It's almost like we've regressed since ancient times. We've gone backwards. We've lost our connection to the infinite, as a species, as a collective. And psychedelics is certainly not the only way to regain that connection, but it's one of the most ancient, it's one of the most effective, it's one of the most efficient. It's direct and experiential. There's no external authority telling me this is how it is or it isn't. we are discovering it from within ourselves, and that's what makes it so powerful. There
Mhm.
are, I will say, important contraindications. So I'm certainly not a person who says that everyone should be using psychedelics, put it in the water supply, right? There are cases where people shouldn't be using psychedelics. And examples of that are people who have a previous history or diagnosis of bipolar, people who have a previous history of psychotic disorders or schizophrenia, someone who's actively suicidal, right? There are important contraindications in cases where people shouldn't use this. But a lot of the people who I work with are people who are just suffering. They're people who have tried every single treatment they can find. They've been struggling with depression for decades, 20 or 30 years, been to years of therapy, tried every SSRI, every psychiatric medicine, treatment, pill, and nothing has worked, and they don't know what else to do. And to see someone in a position like that have a life changing experience is so beautiful, beyond words.
Yeah. So talking about that, moving into that area, where we are a society, Western medicine likes to do the prescriptions. We like to medicate. And
Sure do.
that's and again, we've been conditioned. We want the instant fix. We want instant gratification, and sometimes medication can be the easiest way to to help us to get through the moment. But then the long terms, you're not really resolving any issue. You're just covering it up.
Mm,
And it doesn't matter if it's your physical body or if it's, psychological. So
yeah.
how do psychedelics differ from regular a prescription that the doctor will give you?
That's a great question. Yeah. Well, I mean, it varies in different cases, right? But just as a very much my thoughts are in alignment with what you've just shared here. When it comes, just taking the example of treating depression, right? A psychiatrist or a doctor prescribes antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications, right? Benzodiazepines. I want to say that I 100% respect that the use of these medications. Some people need these just to get out of bed, and to go about their lives and function. And hey, it's like we got to do what we got to do to function, So I 100% respect and support that. But at the same time, the key difference here is that exactly as you said, these medications, the antidepressants, for example, they're really helping us with these symptoms of depression without helping us to address the root cause. Where are these symptoms coming from? Again, in the case of antidepressants, it's almost like an emotional numbing agent, right?
Mhm.
It dulls the pain, which is very useful in some circumstances. But at no point does an antidepressant help us to address or resolve where is the pain coming from in the first place. And surely at some point, a deeper, more holistic treatment or solution is needed rather than putting a band-aid on it again and again and again, right? The difference is that psychedelics, in conjunction with uh, therapeutic support, using them in a safe and supportive space. I want to be clear that as powerful as the medicines are, really the context around their use is also so key, right? It's a very different thing to take some mushrooms and go to a concert versus to take some mushrooms and have a therapeutic experience with them. So it's not just the substance; it's substance plus the context and the support around it.
Mhm.
But when those pieces are in place, then we see these substances helping us to resolve the root cause of our suffering, of our anguish, rather than just addressing the symptoms in as little as one or two treatments, in as little as one or two sessions or doses or journeys. We see people resolving lifelong depression. And that, again, that's something that you just don't see with antidepressants, and you just don't see with most other clinical interventions.
Yeah. So, you kind of just brought up something that I think is really important in between recreational and therapeutic. So if I'm coming to you and you now, let me make sure, because you're a professional in the field, you're not just the random person that's like, hey, I think I want to create a group and y'all all come and we're going to do ayahuasca or psilocybin or whatever, and then we're going to leave you. We're out of
Right.
here. So
Right.
I'm assuming that there's some protocol that you use that people
Sure.
probably need to be aware of, and what are the best practices for doing a medicine like this.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to potentially be said there, but the protocol kind of encompasses like the before, during, and after of the psychedelic experience, right? Beforehand, there's preparation. Then during the experience itself, there's effect. What does it mean to effectively facilitate an experience, to be there with someone while they're under the influence of a psychedelic compound, to really support that journey? Then also there's the afterwards, the integration phase, right? Ongoing support as the effects of the substance or the medicine wears off. uh, there's protocols for continuing to stay connected and engaged to support the process of what comes next. How do we use this experience, all the new breakthroughs, insights, awareness, wisdom? Um, how do we leverage those towards real change in our everyday lives, right? And that's kind of where the rubber meets the road and what it's really all about. I'll say one more thing about that as well. Even before, in the before stages of the experience, before preparation, part of the protocol is screening, right? Screening. Again, it's worth mentioning that not everyone is in a place to benefit from a psychedelic experience today, and so to do this in a way that's safe and effective at scale, it's also important to have an effective screening protocol in place.
Okay, so give me an idea. So I'm going to say, like, okay, so all my friends are doing it, so I want to do it too. So I'm going to call Jonas. Hey, Jonas, you know, give me the rundown. What types of questions? What are you going to screen for? How do you do it? And how do you
Well,
know if I'm a good candidate?
these substances are incredibly safe, right? They're incredibly safe when used in just with some basic common sense safety measures in place, and having a professional or a supportive, a facilitator, some people call it a trip sitter, having someone through the journey is one of the most effective ways to guarantee and ensure safe outcomes. As far as the screening, I mean, it's really just those few contraindications that I mentioned earlier, that we want to make sure someone's not falling in any one of those categories. If there's a previous history of bipolar, any kind of psychotic disorder, of active suicidal ideation, things like this, um, those are cases where probably that person would not be a suitable candidate to receive psychedelic therapy as of today.
Yeah.
But going beyond that, yeah, there's a range of questions in that kind of preparation phase. A lot of it really is more about the words that are being exchanged. It's about kind of starting to form a connection, a bond, right? Building rapport, getting to know each other, really feeling a sense of and cultivating, fostering a sense of connection, of kindness, of empathy, where this person, my client, so to say, feels safe, feels supported, feels, mentally, psychologically, emotionally comfortable. And that's something that's very kind of embodied and felt. Like, there's certain people who, when you're around them, you feel good, you feel at ease, you feel relaxed, right? You can let your guard down. It feels good. It feels nourishing. There are other people who, when you're in their presence, it's activating. It's like there's something about it. We just know on a deep level, right? So that's a bit. It's that's even deeper than the words. As far as the words, yeah, and in building rapport, I'm curious to know, like, what's bringing a given person to this experience at this time in his or her life. What are they hoping to explore? Goals, aspirations, hopes for the experience, intentions, right? Really getting a sense of um, where they're coming from, because that helps them get more clarity, and that helps me as a practitioner show up in the best way for them, right? So that's kind of the essence of it.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I feel like it's really important. So
Yeah.
I'm going to use myself as the example. So I've known about psilocybins for years, and I have friends that have administered it, and I know ayahuasca has been around for quite some time, and it's a lot of people have done it in my area. I talk to people all the time around the world that have done it. It's like a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's always been something that's inside of me is the fear.
Yeah.
And it's this thing that I've had it all my life. And it's the fear of letting go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's that thing of if I don't even like to drink too much because I
Yeah.
don't know how I'm going to act, and I don't know if I'm going to make a fool out of myself. And, all
Sure.
of these little things that, and it all goes back to our programming. So when I think about doing something that's going to put me in a vulnerable position, I have to go in knowing that I'm safe, and
Yeah.
that
Of
regardless of what
course.
my experience is, I have somebody there that's going to protect me,
Yeah.
that is going to understand what I'm going through, that if I have some kind of breakthrough that's going to bring tears to me, that I'm going to have somebody there that's going to help me work through whatever is coming up. And I'm not
Right.
left there just stranded, not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that that's an important understanding, to where if a neighbor's doing it or if a professional's doing it. Do you
Yeah.
agree?
Totally agree. Yeah. And again, I appreciate you putting that out there and sharing that, because it really illustrates, and kind of fleshes out more of exactly what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a huge difference there. And, um, yeah, I also really appreciate and kind of commend the awareness that you have, in the way that you're bringing awareness to. There's a place of fear, or a feeling of fear, associated with the idea of letting go, right? And letting go of control, because that too is damn near universal. I would say probably a lot of people listening can relate to that. And, um, when engaged in the right way, there's something there that can be so beautifully transformative. Like there might be gold on the other side of that, as far as like an evolutionary breakthrough, right? And finding more wellness in our lives. And yeah, I don't know if that's something that would feel helpful or interesting for you to explore more. I'm certainly happy to, unless you'd like to explore in a different direction.
Yeah, well, I think I want everybody to be aware. And again, I'm a child of the '60s. I was born in '63, so the whole idea of the '70s, that whole, I was brought up, in that idea that if you do anything that, even smoke pot back in the days, that kind of stuff, that if it takes you out, it's horrible. It's like this horrible
Right.
thing. And, and we, growing up in that construct of this is how you should be, and this is really, really bad, and you shouldn't experience that, which
Mm,
obviously society has changed a whole lot, thank goodness, since then. so, but, my core still goes back to those old belief systems that were
yeah.
ingrained at me during that time. But I know I'm not the only one. I know that there's a lot of people like me, people that maybe come from a very structured background, and
Yeah.
so there is that fear of what's going to happen if I do this
Right.
thing,
Right.
and I think
Well,
that's a little bit of, I think I'm not the only one. I know other people kind of feel a little bit like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's going to happen. It could
of
be
course.
horrible, so that's,
Would you be up for like a little bit of a kind of experiential piece around this, just to show what some of working with that can look like?
I don't know. I know I'm scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, why don't we? Let's try it and see what happens.
Okay. Okay. Well, hey, I mean, I'm glad that you even give voice to that, because it's important to. I mean, sometimes talking about these things can feel really vulnerable, and sometimes there's parts of us that don't want to go there, and I think that's really important to heed that as well. You know,
Yeah.
um, the idea of moving forward with a sense of permission from the wholeness of our being, in a way that's non-coercive, but feels like deeply within ourselves, right? I think that's so essential, and that's a core aspect of um, psychedelic work. And again, I think therapy or healing or uh, growth and transformation more generally. You know, um, yeah. Well, I can just describe briefly, and we can shelve it, or we can proceed, just depending on how this lands with you. Really, really, what I meant by more experiential was bringing just like a gentle, open curiosity to that feeling.
Mhm. So give me a little bit more direction. How do you want me
Okay.
to do that? How do I do that?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And let me just say, if at any point you notice any part of you that comes up that says, "Stop right there. I don't want to go any further," please just say that, because that's
Okay.
really important, right?
Okay.
So the idea is, and again, just kind of on a conceptual level, where we're going with this is you mentioned that the idea of, there's part of you that's interested and intrigued by all this, right? That's interested in mushrooms or the psychedelic experience. But then there's another part of you that feels a sense of, very understandably, and again, kind of universally, a little bit of fear around letting go of control, right?
Mhm.
So just in this kind of like, brief inner exploration, just get curious. See if you can get curious right now. If you can kind of inwardly locate or sense that part, just as I said those words to you, that part of you that feels some fear, however minor or major, trepidation, a little bit of anxiety around the idea of letting go of control going into a psychedelic experience. Just see if you can sense or contact that feeling within you. If not, that's okay. If you can, just let me know. Can you
Yeah.
kind of can you kind of feel it?
Well, what's coming to me is being a little girl, and I look like I'm probably, again, I have my records open, so I might not be like the normal person that you talk to. But what I'm seeing is I'm going back to my little girl and me reaching for something and my mom slapping my hand and having to stay in the box, in the permission.
Yeah.
And so what I'm seeing is that I was never really allowed to just be, and I'm seeing like my arms flying, like just dancing, like a crazy person. And it's
Yeah.
like I've
Yeah.
always felt like I'm supposed to stay in the guidelines. And I
Hmm.
can see very clearly that that's what's ingrained in me, and that's where the fear is coming from.
Got you. Got you. Well, that goes really deep. Yeah. Thanks again for sharing that. And again, it's a beautiful example of how this can really like go to meaningful places. Um, it's okay if I ask just one more question about that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, if, just like as a hypothetical, like if that little girl, that younger version of you, was to kind of like go outside the lines and dance and get all crazy and just
Mhm.
let loose, um, what might be the worst or the most challenging or painful outcome of that?
Absolutely nothing.
Mm,
It's simply
okay.
just being free. And I
Okay.
know that because I teach it.
Yeah.
But there's still that little, I can, obviously I'm clearing this energy right now by talking to you about it,
Mm,
but it's being in that place of being free is happiness and joy.
yeah.
It's getting out of the box. And what I'm seeing is that being in the box and having your arms and your legs stick out of the box, it's getting out of the box, and I understand that concept very well. It's just I can see very clearly now by this is that I have to push myself to be able to have the experience of doing it so that I can really truly see what it's like to experience it. And
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is it's like dancing for the first time. Been told to
Mm,
be like a little robot, and you can't move. Like, and I've seen one of those those blow up things that people put in front of businesses,
yeah.
the wavy things. It is like if you've never been allowed to really be free, then you don't. It's fearful getting out of that confinement in that box. But the only way that you know what it's like or what it would be like is to actually do it, and then that's where you have to have the courage to be able to step
Right.
into that.
Right. 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 Well, hey, I think that's beautifully said. And Lisa, thanks again for, you know, yeah, for sharing and putting that out there. Because again, I think probably a lot of people will resonate with what you just shared there. And yeah, it's very powerful, and it's very potentially empowering, to visit that and to kind of clear that energy, and to know
Yeah,
that on the other side of that, is often freedom, joy, beauty. Like,
yeah,
take that leap and land in a bed of feathers,
yeah,
and um, yeah. So there's more to explore there, but just that in and of itself, I think, is a really really powerful,
yeah.
really
Well,
powerful.
thank you for the therapy session. I appreciate that. So thank you. Okay, so getting back to one of the questions that I do have, because this is actually on your website, and one of the things that you talk about is how to maximize the positive outcomes
Mm,
and reduce the risk of the bad trip.
mm,
So, what does that mean to you?
mm. Yeah. Um, well, in it there's so much to potentially be said about that as well. Let me see if I can distill it. Again, maximizing the positive outcomes means working with whoever I'm working with in a very specific way to help them move towards whatever goals they're hoping for, whether that be healing or personal growth or spiritual exploration, right? And again, there's kind of before, during, and after components to that, right? So beforehand, as we discussed, like, just creating a space that really feels safe, that feels non-judgmental, that feels emotionally safe, is so key to safe outcomes, but then
Yeah.
also to getting the most out of it, to letting go, right? I can't exactly let go if I don't feel safe, you know then during the experience, there's a lot that happens as a facilitator, sitting there with someone, being there with someone while they're under the influence, or in their experience. Um, and yeah, I'm trying to think of the best way to kind of distill this. I think that one of the core things that's coming to my mind is again, this is kind of like clinical terminology in a way, but you could almost say like nervous system co-regulation. We're co-regulating,
Mm,
right? And the simplest example is that, makes sense to my mind, is that of an infant and his or her parent. If an infant falls down and scrapes her knee, what's the first thing that she's going to do? She's going to look around to find mom or dad, right?
mm,
And connect with mom or dad and see what mom or dad's reaction is. And the act of looking at mom and dad's face, looking them in the eyes, and there's co-regulating happening there. The parent is offering like a calm nervous system. We're okay. It's okay. It's okay, honey. Like, right? Soothing. So that's just kind of like a metaphor for what happens in a very different way, obviously,
mhm,
during the psychedelic experience, because these can be intense experiences, right? And sometimes people experience profound states of emotional activation, the full spectrum, whether, it's ecstatic laughter and hilarity and bliss, or whether it's sadness, grief, pain, tears, anger, whether it's anxiety or fear, right? As these energetic waves come up, the role of the facilitator is to be there with someone to help just kind of smooth that ride out, to regulate together. I'm offering a calm, compassionate nervous system, a calm, compassionate energy to this person to help them regulate and just smooth sailing through the experience, that helps them to feel safer, but also to go deeper, to get
Mm.
more out of the experience, right? Because again, as they kind of feel more regulated through these waves, then they can continue to let go and continue to go even deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then of course there's the integration phase as well, right? Helping people get the most out of the experience, really working with someone after the fact to discuss and process and reflect and explore what came up, and how, again, how can we use this towards real transformation in our lives?
Yeah. And I want to emphasize that because I have had a lot of people that have crossed my path that have done this type of work, but didn't have anybody to assist them afterwards. And they
Yeah.
felt very lost. And
Yeah,
so I
sure.
want to give you props for that being a part of this process and how important it is to have a support team after you go through the process. So
Of course.
good. Yay for you. Thank you for doing
Well,
that.
I was one of the lost ones for a while, so I
Okay.
really know how important that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you decide, or how do you determine the right substance for somebody? And again, and the dosage is also important.
Yeah. Um, there's so many different factors and variables, and I keep saying this, but it depends to a large extent on this person individually. What are their intentions and goals with the experience? Are they coming more from a therapeutic aspect? Are they coming more for a spiritual experience? There are different substances that are better catered to each type of experience. What's their previous, mental health history? What's their previous psychedelic history? Is this someone who's had a lot of psychedelic experiences? Is this someone who's this is their first time? Obviously, for someone who's new to the psychedelic world or exploration of non-ordinary states of consciousness, it's important that we don't just throw ourselves in the deep end of the pool, right? That we take kind of like a stepwise approach to this, and start at a lower dose, and then over successive experiences work our way up, right? Um, so that's kind of like some of just a brief, in broad strokes, overview of how I begin to approach dosing for someone. If this is someone who has previous psychedelic experiences where they haven't really gone as deep as they want to go, or they haven't really gotten the meaningful breakthrough or transformation that they're hoping for, that might be a case where increasing the dose marginally is appropriate.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that that's really important for people to understand. So I come from the spiritual aspect.
Mm,
My little world is the spiritual part of it. Now, within that spiritual part, it is the understanding of letting go of these old traumas, belief systems
yeah.
to get to this place of connectedness and oneness. So if I am thinking that a psychedelic can help me get to this, for some reason the word is, I'm hearing expansion, getting to a place of expansion and internal or spiritual consciousness. So how significant, you've already mentioned it earlier, but I want to get a little bit deeper into the connections of using a psychedelic and and helping to become more conscious.
Mm.
How does that work together?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's such a rich and juicy question. I feel like I could talk for hours, but let me see if I can again try to distill a little bit. It is really the same core dynamic that I was mentioning earlier, where this increases our awareness of. It's almost like the psychedelic experience represents a telescope pointed inwardly. There's a telescope pointing inwardly into our own mind and consciousness, and deepening our awareness of ourselves. And of course, this is probably the most fundamental spiritual question, right? Is, who am I? What is the self? Who am I really? Is it, hi, my name is Jonas. I'm this body mind identity that I've literally learned that I've accrued since birth? Or is there something deeper, right? In the psychedelic experience, it's very common that it's very clearly revealed that there's more to what I am. People describe these experiences of ego dissolution or ego death, right? The identity, all the thoughts and beliefs and concepts and kind of like cognitive schema, mental frameworks that comprise my human identity in the psychedelic experience can very in a really remarkable way start to fade away and dissolve.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, I can be in a psychedelic experience where um, Jonas isn't really a part of it. It's just like this pure space of consciousness. And yet, even though Jonas isn't really a part of it, I'm still me, whatever that means.
Mhm.
Right. And so there becomes this very natural progression of inward inquiry, self exploration, exploration of the nature of mind and consciousness and the nature of self, true self, right? And this is exactly what happened for me. I mean, from my first psilocybin experience that I was telling you about, I became fascinated by the mystery, not only of the world around me, but the mystery of this. Like, who am I really? On a deeper level. And that began to become clear that there is more to what I am than the thoughts of who I am. And looking deeper, there's just this space of consciousness, pure awareness, aliveness, the life force, the divine spark, right? And investigating that even more deeply. I mean, some of these some of these psychedelic experiences can be just truly amazingly transcendent. A lot of people describe not only ego death or dissolution, but what are called mystical experiences, where are subjectively in the experience, it feels like the boundaries or the borders between self versus other, or the observer versus what is being observed, dissolve. And there's just this really, like, in a felt, embodied sense, not just like a conceptual, it's just an idea or a thought, in a felt, lived, experiential sense. I feel that what this is part of the fabric of life, is an interconnected strand or fiber of life itself, is an expression of the universe, right? And of course, these are the same core teachings that mystics and sages and spiritual visionaries have been sharing for thousands of years. People very spontaneously stumble upon them in the psychedelic experience. And again, it's exactly what happened to me. At a certain point in some of my psychedelic exploration, there were experiences that felt out of body, that
Mhm.
felt not only like beyond this human ego identity, but beyond this body, beyond space and time altogether. It felt like an out of body trip to spiritual realms of existence beyond this physical universe. There's a psychedelic compound called NN-DMT. Some people call it the spirit molecule,
Mhm.
that consistently induces these out of body experiences that very closely resemble all the core features of near death experiences, because the ego dissolves. There's a sense of being out of the body, out of the physical body, transcending space and time, entering into some sort of non-physical, otherworldly realm beyond this universe, encountering beings of light, spiritual beings in these other planes and realms of existence, getting all these downloads about the nature of reality, and, for lack of a better word, having a direct encounter with the divine, you know? And how can that not change someone spiritually for the rest of their lives? It's amazing. I mean, people describe these psychedelic experiences in survey data. People have researched this. Something like over 70% of people describe their psychedelic experiences, certainly their mystical experiences, as among the top five most important experiences of their entire lives, when compared to, the birth of a child or getting married.
Mhm.
My mushroom trip, my experience with DMT or ayahuasca is right up there with it. And yeah, that says a lot, you know?
Well, me being the person that I am, and who I feel like, what my mission is in life is to find that, is to be that oneness. And when I'm listening to you talk, it's like I wish we could sneak it into everybody's drink so that
Mm.
we could hurry up and speed this process up. So, Yeah, what a beautiful explanation and understanding of what this can bring to us. So, what are some common misconceptions about psychedelics?
Hmm. Oh, there's quite a few of them. I guess I would say that it's a lot of people come to the experience thinking that this is going to solve all their problems, that this is going to be like a quick fix, silver bullet kind of thing. That where I just take this compound and lay back, and then poof, I'm healed of. Psychedelics don't take us to the finish line; they create a new beginning.
Yeah.
That's such an important. A lot of people think that come to this experience thinking that after this I'm going to be healed. Is healing is self actualization or self realization, is that a event, or is that a process? It's an ongoing unfolding that continues till the day we die. There's no limit to how brightly we can shine our light. The process never ends, right? So psychedelics are a catalyst. They don't bring us to the end line, and because there ultimately isn't really an end line as far as I see it, and one more I'll say is that a lot of people think that they can take a psychedelic and just kind of lay back, and then the miracles happen. In some ways that's true, but I would also compare it to like someone who buys a surfboard and then goes out in the water and lays on the surfboard and expects surfing to happen. There's a collaboration, there's a dance, right? There's a partnership with this experience. We have to engage it, we have to meet it in a certain way, we have to open to it. It's an experience, right? And we have to dance and move with it to get the most out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you think the future is with psychedelics? With mental health, spiritual growth, and societal healing?
There's It's such an interesting question, and it's something I think about a lot, and I wish I had the answer. And there's a lot of different levels to address that question from. I mean, there's definitely the therapeutic side where this could revolutionize modern psychiatry. There's the legal side, which we'll see large, shifting laws that accommodate mass adoption over time, right? But I kind of what comes to the forefront of my mind is more of that kind of mystical side, which is that humankind as a collective right now is at a point of, in a lot of ways, from a certain perspective, is at a turning point, is at a tipping point, is at, in some ways, a crisis point, a turning point in our evolutionary course as a species, as a collective, right? Where, in essence, as far as I can see, we're in a race between consciousness and catastrophe. Either we evolve inwardly and wake up, or it's only a matter of time. We're going to self destruct. Things are not moving in a great way right now. And the issues that we're facing in the world right now, they require more than just clever politics and new, socioeconomic, whatever initiatives. We need an inner transformation in the human collective, in the minds and hearts of people, right? We need people to wake up and to have this experience of oneness, to have this, to remember that, again, I mean, as far as I see it, we're infinite divine beings in a temporary human lifetime, and we're all one. We're all waves on the same ocean of life, and we're all waves on the same ocean of life, pretending like this other wave is the enemy, and pretending like the ocean doesn't even exist. There is no divine. We're so. To answer your question, I think that psychedelics over time will play a crucial role in catalyzing this mass shift in consciousness. They're not the only piece. Obviously, there's a lot of pieces to this equation, and there's a lot of different ways that we can evolve and awaken. Psychedelics are by no means the only way, but again, they're one of the most effective and one of the most efficient as far as a single experience that can change someone's life forever and help them wake up. And that's exactly what happened to me, right? So I think that over time, it's no accident. I mean, from a bigger divine cosmic perspective, is it really an accident that we're now seeing this like psychedelic renaissance in the research, in the literature, this shift in public opinion, where there's this emergence of these substances that have been around for thousands of years? Now they're coming back online because we need them. because we need them for healing inwardly and also evolving spiritually as a collective, as a species.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I don't think that answers your question. In some ways,
I
you know,
I think it's perfect. I think it was beautiful, and I am cheering you on. Absolutely. Yeah, what's coming to me is the remembering and
yeah,
seeing, going back to the old sages and the old mystics, thousands of years ago, who used this medicine, and somehow or another it faded. It got pushed back, and what I'm hearing, the back of the closet, it got pushed to the back of the closet, and other stuff got put in front of it. And going back to the remembering, of what they knew, what they understood. And I think that's where we're going, and I love it.
yeah,
And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your information. Gosh, it was great. So, is there
yeah. Thank
anything
you.
that you would like to share that maybe I missed?
Not in particular. I mean, it's you know, again, I don't think that these substances are for everyone, but in cases where they are appropriate and where there's safe and supportive use, responsible use of these substances, I think that these are, you know, divine blessings. Like I think that these are gifts from the Most High to help us in this journey. And I think we are just starting to scratch the surface of what the potential really is here. And I'm very interested to see how this unfolds. It's quite an exciting time
It
to be
is.
alive and to witness all this.
It is.
So
And it is. And I'm honored personally to be here. And what a pleasure again it is to
likewise.
talk to you.
Likewise.
How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I want to say again, Lisa, it's been such a pleasure connecting with you, and just deep appreciation and respect to you for all the work that you've been doing. And yeah, I can really feel it. I can really tell all the
Thank you.
goodness. Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel. It's just by my name, Jonas Rosen. Please find me there. I've got a website called Inner Vision Psychedelics. If anyone wants to reach out and connect to explore working together in this realm. I always love connecting with people. Please feel free to reach out. And
Okay.
great to be
And
here.
just so you guys, listeners, can find out. I'm losing my words. I can't talk. Let me start all over again. You can find Jonas's information in the video description of this recording, and just scroll down to the bottom, and his website will be there. And then you can reach out to him, and he probably is your YouTube channel on your website as well.
Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
there as well.
So you can find all the information from your website. And again, Jonas, thank you for being here. And for you listeners, I hope you found a new resource to help you through this beautiful time and help you to see the beautiful light that is. So I will see you guys next time.